Question. How do we call him? He gave us a signal.
What is up, my fellow battalion? We are ready to rebel for the planet Velt. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy Trey of the Bat Channel. We are live to talk about Rebel Moon Director's Cut, the R-rated version of a really very, very cool sci-fi odyssey that Zack Snyder has cooked up over on Netflix that we did some watch parties this last weekend for you guys, and totally a different experience from the PG-13 cut. And let me just say this now. If you like Zack Snyder, you're going to freaking love it. If you don't like Zack Snyder and you just hate everything he does, first off, I don't even know why you waste your time then, because you're already going in preconceived notions of how you feel about something before actually watching it. So if you don't like it, just don't even bother. Like, spend time actually watching something you like we do. Other than The Acolyte. That one was a grind. I'm not going to lie.
I was about to correct you for a second.
Thank you. Yeah. As soon as I said that, I was like, we were halfway into it and we were like, we have to finish. You know me, I have to finish it. And, you know, everyone was pushing us to talk about it, you know, but my thing is, like, if we didn't go in hating Acolyte, we went in wanting to like it. We were honest with our PG-13 review. If you guys haven't watched that, you can check that out, where I was like, I didn't think quite hit the mark here. So we're just, once again, we're going to be honest with you guys. As people who do enjoy Zack Snyder's content, I'm not a fan of all the things he's done. I watched Sucker Punch like 3 times and I still can't understand it. I haven't watched the extended cut of that yet, but that's just one particular film that I just, maybe the director's cut that he has is different and will give me a different opinion on it, but I just can't. I've watched it and I can't like figure out, other than the visuals are freaking awesome. But I expect that from Zack, being a very artistic director. So we're going to break it down for you. We're going to be talking about Rebel Moon Director's Cut, both part 1 and part 2 as a whole. We're going to talk about some of the differences between the PG-13 cut, how the performances may have thrived or not, and just talked about, did Netflix make a huge mistake by releasing the PG-13 cut before the R-rated cut? Like, maybe, or maybe the PG-13 cut is better. I don't know. We'll have to see. But guys, without further ado, let me go ahead and bring out the best co-host I could ever ask for. You know him as the Motherworld Imperium lover, noble sympathizer, toothless, hanging out with weird tentacles, super bro Corey. How you doing, big fella?
For the Motherworld. Doing fantastic, buddy. We're tracking down the rebels. We're have a good front going on. We're smashing them. We're destroying them, and we're making them. Making them our our slaves, basically. You know,
I
we're
was
taking over, dude.
half expecting you, Corey, to come up to me and be like, "Embrace me, brother."
I was, yeah, that would have been interesting.
How about the nice cup of ale, Corey, and get the hell away from me?
dude, yes. I'm excited to talk about this. I kind of thought about it all week, so it's been on my mind. Yeah. This should be a good show tonight. Did he just say tentacles? I think he did just say tentacles. What's up, Project?
Yes.
Did he just say tentacles? Yes, he did. The rated R cut. Got us. If you're into tentacle anime, had some of that stuff there. So
yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm really excited to talk about and kind of. We're not going to do a full deep dive breakdown scene by scene like we have with some things. I feel like we're really just wanted to get across here. One, was the R-rated cut an improvement from the PG-13? We're going to answer that question based on our opinion. If you watch the watch party or the watch along with us last weekend, you probably got an idea of how we were feeling about it. Our reaction said a lot. And with Corey and I coming into this, I really want to stress how important it is to sometimes get the director's vision, than to do the politics of this stuff. And I don't mean so much like politics, like the actual agenda going on, but like the economics, they're trying to do things analytically, milk it, sometimes that's maybe not the right option. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's go through some of the pleasantries real quick, and then we'll say hello to everyone in the chat. Hope everybody's doing well. But you can follow us on one of our social media pages like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at _Bat Channel, or if you're still over on Facebook at Holy Bat Channel. It's just a great way to get in touch with us and let us know what's going on in your life, or maybe what's going on in our life. Couple months from now, I'm going to be going to Greece, so I'll probably be posting a lot of pictures from my vacation with the Wonder Wife. Persian cowards, If
we don't get the live action $5 or super chat video of you doing that, Trey, I'm gonna be very upset.
Fair enough. I'll see what I can do, Super Bro. We'll see. I don't know how internet's going to work out there, but as always, it helps us out so much when you smash that like, you share this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode, because we are the Battalion and we got some great videos coming up for you guys, and some videos that maybe you haven't seen yet, like our Batman Cape Crusader review. It's getting a lot of debating going on in the chat, and I like, for the most part, it's been pretty respectful. So hopefully it's the same with Rebel Moon here, whether you liked it or you didn't like it.
Are we going to have to become the Spider Channel again, Trey?
No, I don't think so. I did have one person kind of come at me, but I was like, whatever. I get it. It's part of the territory with YouTube, but it just amazes me when you don't agree on certain things, we can't have conversations anymore. But I would say, for the most part, a lot of the people who have been watching Batman Cape Crusader that maybe we've had differences on, it's been fairly respectful. A couple of silly gooses. But we also have, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine reviews, the spoiler free if you haven't seen it yet, or Twister's movie review with Super Bro, Corey, and I talking about some of the big summer blockbusters. Chase it. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out, and then some upcoming shows for you guys. Or sorry, I totally forgot. If you love Rebel Moon and you want to join us on some of the things, we have all the watch parties, the movie reviews of PG-13, which I highly recommend you guys check out, because I think that's going to help you understand the differences even more if you want to go into a further deep dive. Especially from what I've read in the books compared to the PG-13 cut. I was waiting for this one. I was really waiting for this one. So yeah, we'll talk about. So our upcoming shows that we have going on. Corey, can you switch to the next slide, please? Alien Romulus is coming out this next weekend. I'm so freaking excited for this movie. I already got my tickets for the fan event screening on Thursday with my Todd father-in-law. the ham smacker and my wonder wife are going to be going to watch it. We've been doing an alien marathon, trying to get ready for it. Corey and I will be doing a Skeleton Crew trailer reaction soon enough for Star Wars. So be on the lookout for that. I heard it came out yesterday, I think. So we'll have to see. And then, of course, Wonder Wife have our Jurassic World Chaos Series Season 2 teaser trailer reaction that will be hopefully releasing this weekend if I have time to finish editing it. It's just been kind of a crazy couple of weeks. So get ready for that. But Future Tom coming in. Future Tron, which I heard that was at D23. I didn't see any footage of it, though. Did you heard about the BS about the Army of the Dead franchise? I heard something that the Wrap reported that it's been canceled and that it's dead in the water, but I heard that's been debunked since then, that Zack literally had another interview like weeks after that, like they were using old interview stuff and quotes from Zack where it's like, oh yeah, we're kind of working on it, but nothing set in stone yet. My understanding is it's still very much in the plans. So I don't know.
We know Netflix likes their content.
Yeah, it just goes to show that there's that hatred towards Zack, which I don't even understand. I don't get how people can just, well, maybe, I don't know. You like what you like. I mean, there's certainly content directors that do movies that I don't really care for. One of them for me is James Gunn. I don't think he's funny. I don't think his content is funny.
Leslie Headland.
Yeah, Leslie Headland. I didn't think she did a very good job, or any of the other projects she's worked on. I mean, there's just, sure, but I'm not like going after and just like, yeah, this sucks, just because I still give James Gunn kind of credit for Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, even though he didn't really write it. Supposedly, that's what I've heard. I heard there was an actual lawsuit about that at one point. So I don't know. I would have to do more research to look at that. But yeah, I'm not worried. Zack's gonna be fine. He's gonna continue making cool content like this Twilight of the Gods that's coming out. That sounds really, really cool. I'm excited to actually see some more footage of that and to watch it. So we need a good Norse mythology animated show. But yeah, man, some good stuff on the way on the Bat channel. So make sure you hit that notification bell. Corey, who's on the chat today?
Yeah, man, we got a lot of people here today. We got Koji in the house, Dean Classified, Monarch Eyes Only, Atomic Kaiju 1954, hashtag Restore the Snyderverse Guy, Bat Fanatic, Red Robin, Trevor H, Wayne Enterprises, Kaiju Crazy, Craig, Roland, Good Soldiers Follow Order 66, Keen Donkey Kong, Darth Starkiller Unleash, The Batman Who Laughs, Red Hooded Outlaw, Oracle's Glock Tower, Beyond the Night, The Butler, Carrie Kelly, Joker's Wild, 9 Lives in Hell here. And they're coming in more and more. I think I got everybody.
What's up?
Ryan Swayze. I saw Ryan Swayze somewhere. There's Ryan Swayze.
Ryan.
Hashtag Restore the Snyderverse Guy. Future Tron, of course. Yep, and they're still filing in, my friend.
Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to see you guys. Like I said, share the stream, get all the rebellion into the chat, because we're going to talk about Rebel Moon Director's Cut. Because I think I've been watching a few other YouTubers talk about it, and like I said, it's clear to me there's just people who just don't like Zack. I didn't really hear any good references, and the first thing that really, like, I turn off anybody who's like talking about this movie, and if the first or one of the things they say is this was a original Star Wars idea that Zack just morphed to be something more of his own, I immediately turn off, because then I know you haven't done your research. I know you haven't looked at all the interviews. And yeah, I'm not gonna call anyone specifically out, but I'm just gonna say I'm going to turn your review off because you don't know what you're talking about.
Even people who've interviewed Zack Snyder said that as well, though, Trey.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what's sad about it, is because clearly it's easy to throw a label on it, to throw a tag that is a big IP, so that way people, like Star Wars fans like, ooh, Zack Snyder's Star Wars. So that way you'll be intrigued to look at it. But the truth of it is it was not an original Star Wars idea. It was Zack's idea from college, where they were going around the classroom saying like, hey, give me a quick movie pitch in like 2 minutes, go. And Zack just spun out an idea. Star Wars wasn't even mentioned, I think it was like the Magnificent Seven in space. And everyone was kind of like, ooh, well, that could be cool. And that was it. And then he kind of morphed it into his own thing over time. And then eventually, kind of in that period in the late 2000s, Zack saw that LucasArts wasn't really doing anything. He was thinking, well, maybe this is my chance to kind of morph this into a Star Wars story to see if maybe they'll pick it up, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So Zack changed the story to become a Star Wars story, and Lucasfilm, which I'm glad they did, said, no thanks, that's a little crazy for us. And Zack's, Deborah Snyder and Zack said, well, cool, what do we do now? So Netflix, after the success, and it was a success, Army of the Dead, when it first released, it made it to the top 10 all-time list of Netflix for streaming numbers, Army of the Dead. They asked, what else you got? Throw some more stuff. We're interested in doing some spin-offs. We'll do that Army of Thieves scene. We'll do some other stuff. So Zack was like, well, I have this idea, this like space opera battle of, that I want to do here. Like, can we do it? They're like, sure, go for it. And they gave him, it was a less than $180 million, I think, right, Corey?
I believe so.
I'll have to look at that. Corey, can you look that up real quick while we've for the final budget? Zack was able to keep the cost down because he filmed back to back, and they were able to get quite a bit.
166 million.
Cheaper than the Acolyte. Cheaper than the Acolyte, Corey. What in God's name are we even like arguing about with these people? So if you are watching a review and you hear someone say, well, this was a knockoff Star Wars, or this was a Star Wars idea that Zack had made for Lucasfilm, and then he, when they said no to him, rejected him, he was like, well, then I'm going to do my own thing. Don't listen to that person. They're not educated in the matter. They didn't do their research, because I just told you what happened. It wasn't a Star Wars idea from the get-go. It was Zack Snyder's original idea that at one point he saw an opportunity to pitch it over to Lucasfilm, morph the idea. But they said no, so he just brought it back to his own idea. It wasn't that tough, So with that in mind, I say, Corey, we go ahead and talk about Rebel Moon's director's cut. Are you ready, my man? And guys, I'm just going to warn you now, if you have not seen this movie or the PG-13 cuts, you're going to want to come back to this video eventually, because we are going to do spoiler reviews. Corey and I don't have time to weed around the not trying to spoil things for you. So just prepare yourselves. It is.
It's not just a signal. It's a warning.
Yes. All right. Corey, you and I, as always, we like to talk about numero uno story. Because that's always the most important thing. And the reason why I bring this up is I think what's important about this story is the differences between the PG-13 cut, right?
Absolutely.
So just basic blanket statement of looking at the differences between the PG-13 cuts and the R-rated cuts. I'm gonna break down some stats for you guys. We're gonna do some NFL stats. Yes. Okay. All right. Run times. Part 1, Child of Fire, was 2 hours and 14 minutes. This is the PG-13 cuts. Then with Part 2, The Scargiver, it was 2 hours and 2 minutes. That gives the PG-13 cuts all together a total of 4 hours and 16 minutes. That's a good 2 films right there, right? Theatrical release films right there. Then you have the director's cuts. Zach told us, get ready. It's the R-rated, untarnished, unmessed with. We going all out. This is the original vision I had. Prepare yourselves. Part 1, Chalice of Blood, was 3 hours and 24 minutes. A huge difference. It's an hour and 10-minute difference. Part 2, Curse of Forgiveness, was 2 hours and 53 minutes for a grand total time of 6 hours and 17 minutes. So the total difference between the two PG-13 version versus the R version is about 2 hours altogether. So just right there, you already know it has to be more than just extreme extended scenes, right? Can't really draw too much of that just by extending what is already there. You're going to have to throw in some new themes, which goes to, in my opinion, one of the parts that Corey heard me say that I was really missing from the books to the PG-13 cut, and that was the opening scene, Corey. What did you think about that? I told you, get ready, prepare yourself. The opening scene is going to be the most insane thing that should tell you right then and there, this ain't no Star Wars.
Right, dude? Man, that was intense. Noble walked in, the best way I can explain it, like Negan. He just straight showed up, dude. Like, he was insane. He was truly a menace and an evil person. Probably somebody, no, the Negan influence with the bat swinging or the staff swinging would have like made me like Noble from the get-go. So I can't say that. I would have been like, oh no, Noble would have been a bad guy to me. No, I would have still liked Noble after that. It was such a cool opening scene, dude. He just showed how much of a menace he truly is, and how much he doesn't have any care for life at all, and that it's just what he wants and what the Motherworld is going to do. So it was a super awesome show of force within like the first 15 minutes of the movie. It was awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I remember, if you just the first time watching the Bat Channel here, when I was reading the official novelization, obviously before the director's cut came out, my wife, when we're on these road trips, she likes me to, do voices and like act out the book in a bit, kind of do those like little, what is it, audible, like the audible stuff where someone's like narrating it to you. And so I was reading it, getting into it, trying to give her a performance. And it got to that part with Eris and his father, where his dad is just like, you have to kill me. They might let your sister and your mother live. Like,
is that how you said it? Could you do it a little bit more, like
I'm not going to do it because then I'll start tearing up, and I'll do what I did in the car, which was I had trouble starting to read. I was getting choked up, especially when the part that like I just like lost it. The tears just like burst. I don't think I've had that good of a cry in a long time. Was when the father says, "No, not today." Is when the father says, "I forgive you." He's trying to take off some of the burden of his son. And the mom is saying, "You're not going to come back from this, Eris. You don't do it. You're not going to come back. You're going to be dead inside." I'm crying so hard. Sarah's crying to the point where we were on our way to go pick up some gifts, actually, for Corey's birthday, that we had to pull over to the side of the road because she couldn't see anymore because she was like tearing up that bad. I knew then that if the director's cut did what the book had in it, the director's cut immediately was going to be special, especially in part 1. And the power of that just goes to show how Zach immediately can transport you into this world that he has created, this universe. And like, I don't know who said it. I think it's Red Hood Outlaw. It was like a wonderful introduction to a villain worthy of remembrance, right? We got Negan coming out of the trailer, about to bash someone's head in Walking Dead. One of the greatest introductions of all time. You got Darth Vader coming through the smoke on, the ship, looking at all the dead bodies and just choking everyone and it just being a menace. All these incredible scenes, the Joker, right? Like in the first opening scene of The Dark Knight. You have all these iconic scenes. Corey, would you say the introduction to Noble, did it do its job? Did it tell you something
Absolutely.
more about this character that maybe you didn't get from the PG-13 cut?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was truly a bad guy. A bad dude.
Yeah.
In the PG-13 cut, he didn't seem that bad to me. Didn't seem that bad. Seriously, though, think about it. The difference between the two there. I think it's a huge, show. Like, oh, he's an evil guy. He's killing people in the PG-13.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
the rated R cut, the director's cut, he's getting other people to kill family, to kill friends, to kill loved ones in front of him. That is some psycho shit right there, Trey. So, like, yeah, it brought him up a completely different level, bro.
it did, and I think it ups the threat level a bit when you have a guy like that who's so powerful that he's not worried. I mean, he's coming down the ship and he hears from his commander that the battle's still waging on, that they haven't taken out the king yet, or the ambassador of this world. And do you see him fearful? No, he's like, take me to him. Take me to him. Like, I'll make an example out of him. I got this. And to do that to Eris's character, who in the PG-13 cut, you can tell there's something there, right? I even said, I was like, there's something there with this kid. Why is he looking a certain way? Why is he the one that is in defiance of them? And what you find out in the R-rated cut, or at least when I read the book, is he's a prince. He is a prince from a world that he was stolen from and beaten into submission to be a part of the Motherworld's forces. And it just seeing that, getting that opening scene. Remember when I said, Corey, like, it almost feels like Eris should be the main character of this story.
Yep.
But it makes sense that they continue with Kora being the face of this franchise at the moment. Because I think seeing what Eris goes through, you can probably assume that a lot of people in the military of the Motherworld, of the Imperium, like Kora, this is something that probably many of them have gone through, which just shows how awful the Regent is of Balisarius, and having his right-hand enforcer, Noble. It just tells you that much more of how just awful and powerful and cocky the Imperium is about it all. And I think it sets up a lot of story from that first 15 minutes, especially with Eris, right? Because as I brought up just a few moments ago, Corey, Eris, his mom says to him, don't do it. You're not going to come back from this, Eris. You're not going to. You don't do it. But he does it because he loves his family and he wants to save his family, even if it means taking the life of his father. What do we see Eris do? He does become dead inside a little bit. But here he has an opportunity to seeing what happens to Sam on the planet of Velt. And he says, no more. No more. I'm not going to stand for this shit. And what we learn is his mom, it was almost a challenge, right? You're not going to come back from this. And I think deep down, Eris always said to himself, I'm not going to become one of them. And to me, having that backstory was made what happens through part 1 to part 2 all the more special, and makes Eris's character, this small character in the grand scheme of this entire story arc, makes it so powerful just through him. Because he's the example. Honestly, if you want to compare it to Star Wars, he's the Finn story you always should have got in the sequel trilogy. A dude who was forced in submission with the Empire and, you know, trying to come out of it, and they just completely dropped off his character because they didn't know what to do with him. Here, they clearly knew what to do with Eris, you know.
Do you think, Trey, that I know you're a fan of Jimmy, but do you think with the added story of Eris that Eris has become your favorite?
Jimmy's still my favorite, and I'll go into that a little more. But Eris is definitely up there. He's top 3, maybe top, definitely at least top 5.
Wow,
and I hope that, I think he belongs, and I hope they go further into him, into his character some more, especially as the franchise continues on. And I know one thing, of course, one thing that people often say about the R-rated cuts is those nudity scenes, is those sex scenes necessary? And to me, like, as someone who's like very kind of cautious about that stuff as well, because Corey knows this, I don't know what it is. I Law-Abiding Citizen, I think that is an awesome movie, but I can never watch the first 10 minutes of that movie because of a particular rape scene that happens, and it's so uncomfortable for me, and I can't handle it. To me, it's like my worst fear, worst nightmare of all time, that I don't want to be a part of anything that happens like that. And so I'm always cautious, and like, especially when that type of brutality and that type of exposure happens with women's characters. And to see that I felt like in this case, while I was kind of like, oh damn, there's breasts in the first 10 minutes of this movie. Clearly it's R-rated. It makes complete sense. Like, it wasn't used to be like, ooh, breast. It was used in a way to be like, this is what the Motherworld does. It's no different than what we've seen in the history of time with different empires, like the Roman Empire, some of the Greek empires, the Persian empires. They find the religious figures of that other country, and they make an example out of them because they're the ideal of hope, right? They're the idea of what encourages people, that the gods are saying, we need to fight these people because they're the bad guys. The gods will protect us. And it's their way of completely demolishing those people's hopes by saying, haha, look, you're a part of our shit now. You're going to be a slave. Where's your God now? It completely demoralizes your enemy, and it makes complete sense that the Motherworld or the Imperium would be using that tactic, that nobles, priests would be doing this. Corey, did you have any particular issues of... some people are sensitive to it, right? Like, some people just like, no nudity. It's just an unnecessary thing in Hollywood. Did you feel it was unnecessary?
Yeah, I kind of share the same sentiment of those feelings with you, Trey. Like, some of those scenes get, kind of hard to watch. So yeah, I'm right. Well, we're brothers. I'm right there with you on how I feel about it. So, it wasn't, I get what people say. Could it have been done differently? Sure. It was done appropriately as far as Zack Snyder goes. I think is the best way to say it. I think Zack Snyder's handles those things appropriately. So I think that'd be just kind of my additional statement. But I agree with what you said, Trey.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Is like, Zack likes to be as authentic and as realistic as possible sometimes, especially with like, he doesn't like to hide from it. He knows that he draws off a lot of things from mythology and history, just like many other directors have done, where they use actual historical events and data and facts to kind of influence and kind of represents what's happening a little bit as reflections of our society in a way. So what Zack just did was just simply say, like, let's be honest, this happens in our world, it probably would happen in that world too, you know, that sense of brutality. So I can understand why some people are kind of like, yeah, it's a little too much. But I think Zack also used it. Zack, if you know anything about Zack Snyder, one of the things that I personally appreciate about his directorial skills and how he tells a story is it's not always done through the script or, you know, words. Sometimes it's visual storytelling. And I think how he achieved that especially was with Kora's character. In the beginning, in part 1, we see her having sex with Den. It's a very graphic and full nudity scene, basically, where you can tell just by no words being said and just how the body language is and the emotional expressions are coming from each character that Den clearly wants something more. He wants a relationship with her. He's trying to kiss her. And she's just there. She's just like, I just need to get out of my head and let's just have sex. You know, it means nothing to her. It's just a physical need at that point. And it's important that they had that scene. While you could say like, damn, that was a long scene. It was basically softcore porn. You know, I think the importance of it was to show Kora at the moment we find her in the movies. She's dead inside. She's trying to find reason again. She's trying to find a peaceful life. But her inner demons, her inner sins, her past sins won't let her have it. So therefore, she's just dead. And she's doing anything she possibly can to find feeling. And it's important as that story goes on with her character that finally, in part 2, she finds reason. She finds love. She finds Gunnar as the person she can tell the whole truth to. She's been hiding herself, right? Not letting anyone too close, not revealing the truth. And the one person she does is Gunnar. And
which is, I think, is kind of perfect too, because Gunnar is kind of, you know, like weak in some ways, you know, like he has, you know, those he doesn't make the right decision all the time, you know, he goes against something. So where Den, he's that Gaston style, you know, hero for the village and everything like that. So I think she saw some of herself in Gunnar, so it kind of made sense with how they flowed together.
Well, I think Gunnar, having that particular scene in part 2 where Sam is giving everyone kind of their banner, their this is who you are. It was perfect symbolism to say Gunnar is the heart of this rebellion, right? He's the heart of Veld. And he is very much the hope, right? He is the heart that keeps them beating, because he is almost the one you could say is pure throughout this entire movie. He does make a mistake in part 1 where he's trying to do what's best for his community, and he can sense that this debate or this conversation with Sensory is not going well. Corey Stoll's character, and Noble's probably gonna, you know, take him out. So why not, like, well, yes, we have grain for you, and of course it goes wrong. It just shows that he miscalculated the brutality of the Imperium. That but it's also the ignorance of he's lived a very innocent life. He hasn't really gone through anything like that, and we start to see this journey that he goes on that's really fleshed out in the R-rated cut, with him kind of growing a pair. You know, he's willing to do things to get the job done, to tell Kora, like, I love you, I have feelings for you, kind of, you know, towards the end of the movie, to not cower away like he does in the bar that, you know, Kai calls him out on, you know, makes fun of him for. When the moment really push comes to shove, he made it stand and put his life in the way to save his people, to save Kora. And his character, you go from the weakling to the strong man. He's the one that even when Kora lost hope, he held his ground and said, no, we're no longer are we going to allow this. I'm not going to let them take you because they're just going to kill us all anyways, right? And to me, if there's one huge benefit that this R-rated cut did, was it gave a lot of fleshed out character arcs with a large cast, a really large cast, and each giving them their moment to shine, but something to grow through. What's your thoughts about that, Corey, in terms of character arcs and giving everyone the time to grow? Do you feel like it was utilized correctly, or is there too much going on in the director's cut?
No, absolutely. I think that's one thing that Zack always does well is character development. I think that how do I say it without getting like to the end portion of what we're going to be talking about? It was needed. The extra minutes, the extra time developing these characters made them make sense more, if that makes sense. Like I understood things better in this director's cut.
I agree. I think the PG-13 cut made the part one, you and I said it during our movie review, part one was a rushed thing. Yep. While I gave it a lot of points because it was a brand new IP, and I love the fact that it wasn't something that wasn't Star Wars, it wasn't another Jurassic World movie, it wasn't another Marvel movie, it wasn't another Godzilla movie, and these are all things I love, right, that I keep going back for. But it was something new. I had no idea what to expect, so I'm actually reacting. I can't go like, oh well, that comes from issue 32 of Batman in the New 52 saga. Like, I can't do that with like when I'm watching the Batman movie. I'm actually sitting there and I'm able to go like, oh, ooh, what is going on? Oh, I hope they go into that. That is like a cool concept. I'm like experiencing it, and it's fresh. And that to me is a very exciting thing. So I give the PG-13 cuts, I gave them probably more points because of that. Because I think, Corey, PG-13 part one, I gave like an 8.1.
That sounds right.
I think I was being generous then. I think
I had Rebel Moon number 3 for my top 5 movies last year, and that was me being generous. I think now looking back and the comparison between the two.
Yeah. To me, when we got to part 2, that felt more like a Zack Snyder movie. He just does war movies really well, as we've seen with 300. It was some of the best parts about Sucker Punch. Hell, when you get to the Nightmare World of Batman v Superman, that was dope. His storytelling that he wrote for Wonder Woman, even though Patty Jenkins directed that, he wrote it, and that was the better of the Wonder Woman films. He clearly has an eye and a way of storytelling when it comes to war movies. So part 2 was up his alley, which is why it had a significantly higher score for us with the PG-13 cut. And with here, we get so much more with these characters. Jimmy starts to make a lot more sense. Jimmy, when he is shown kindness through Sam, and it reminds him of Princess Issa, you could tell he kind of becomes alive again. He becomes self-aware. Even though they were sentient robotics before, they kind of died. They kind of lost all purpose and meaning. They're just drones at that point, doing whatever the Motherworld asks because they can't self-terminate. And going through this journey without Princess Issa, the one thing their prophecy was supposed to hold them to. And when he has that moment with Sam and she touches his face and puts the crown on, it's like all of a sudden the soul came back into that robot, which is why I love that character so much, because Zack found a way to really give Jimmy a soul, but not only that, a mind, a heart, and to be a character that just gave me more of that kind of you could say Gandalf vibe. He's the wise one. He's the truth seeker, and just a complete badass. And to just have those poems, basically, he was saying throughout of part 1, and seeing him kind of go on this journey of like him trying to compute what is happening to him. It's literally all about the part 1 with his scenes. He's trying to figure out what is happening with him. Why is he thinking this way? Why is he feeling, and it starts to come together with him as he's seeing the themes. He's finding reason again.
Yes. Like, and Zack knew what he was going to do the entire time with Jimmy, which is awesome. Like, I remember seeing some behind the scenes of Anthony Hopkins reading Jimmy's lines, and he was talking very robotically, and Zack Snyder was like, paused them and was like, hey, let's try to dial back the mechanical, the robotic voice just a tad and see how that sounds. And then Anthony Hopkins does it again, and it's like, man, that was perfect. It made it more humanized and everything like that. And in some ways, Trey, like, this is probably one of the best robot AI droid development stories since, like, what would you say, iRobot?
I didn't even think about iRobot, but yeah, dude, I would definitely throw that in there, because it's kind of like the Spock thing, right? Even with Star Trek, to kind of like keep up with the sci-fi theme of what's going on here. Vulcans are very much, cut and dry. They're very square, just this is how it is. They're robotic in nature and their feelings. They don't let things get the best of them. But part of what made Spock amazing, other than he's half human and he's able to kind of relate to us in that way, it was Spock trying to understand us as humans, understand why we're so emotional creatures, and to, in a way, let it affect him to become more emotional, to do the things that Captain Kirk maybe would have done. And Jimmy's, in a way, is kind of no different. We expect him to be robotic, and to just be analytical. But what you start to see with Jimmy when we first see him is he is very proper, right? Like, yes, that falls perfectly in my protocols. I will do that for you. Yes, I am a servant to the Motherworld. Let me pick up these boxes. Oh, you're rude to me, but I cannot fight back because I am here to serve. He is very robotic. And then you get that one scene of kindness and generosity with Sam's character, and it's like the light switch comes on. You could just feel it. You can feel it in the music with Tom Holkenborg, the composer, also known as Junkie XL, and you can see Jimmy come alive in a way where, like I said, it's taking him time. There's moments where you're kind of like, well, why isn't Jimmy just getting involved right here? And I think it's because he is trying to very much figure out where he fits in all of this. Is this his war? Is this his, duty? And I think what he, as is almost his binary code, the programming, as he's trying to figure it out, I think in a way he almost stops thinking in a bit, and he starts reacting, being human.
His mission failed. Like, his sole purpose of his creation, he failed, and they all failed. So it's like, if that was their sole purpose and now you failed, there's nothing left to you. So he didn't have an identity anymore. And it was very neat watching Jimmy just kind of oversee everything and kind of relearn that there is a purpose, even though he's a droid. It was a very neat story arc for sure.
I agree, and I especially love. Yes, you get the badass action sequence with him kind of going all Batman, Superman on the Imperium with his freaking elk antlers, just messing people, and it's an epic scene, a cheer-worthy moment. And Zack knows how to film those scenes, man. I don't know what it is about doing the flowing cape and slow-mo. Whether you like the slow-mo or not, I like the slow-mo because to me, it kind of looks like a comic book or an anime movie coming to life, like it's in live action.
It reminded me of the Deadpool Wolverine opening scenes where Deadpool is using, the skeleton of Wolverine to kill the bad guys. Like it was awesome. I wish Zack Snyder's version of that came out first in some ways.
Right? Yeah, and I think it's just the action's done right. It just is right, and. One thing I think you heard me saying this, Corey, during our PG-13 review was I need more information about Balisarius. He's such a bad dude, and his reasons for doing things you always want to know what drove the villain to do this. What made the villain so mad or so violent? And what you start to see with Balisarius is he was kind of a removed son of the king, not blood related, but he believed he was doing everything to lift up the Motherworld for God and country and the king, and his brutality made them safer, and that to have a strong empire you need a strong and brutal military. It's what he was good at. He thrived on it. It's all he's ever known. And what you come to know is that as Princess Issa of the prophecy, and the king starts to go like, she's going to be different than me. She's not going to be a violent, ruler. She's going to bring peace to this galaxy. So I'm going to change with her. I'm going to start becoming what she envisions me to be, a proper peaceful king, benevolent. And he doesn't like that. The king hears about all the brutality and the violence that his leading commander Balisarius is ruling with his ship. And he's just like, hey, you're not setting a good example for the Motherworld, and no one's going to believe we're a peaceful nation, especially when Princess Issa comes around. He's like, you gotta stop this. I'm going to take you off the military. You're not going to control my forces anymore, and I want you to become a political senator to help me. And what does Balisarius do? Okay, well, I'm just gonna gaslight the entire Senate to become more violent and to believe in his way, and he starts changing. But it was that moment for Balisarius when he saw that the king kind of putting him down and disciplining him, that he kind of realized, well, this is not the Motherworld I'm fighting for. The king wants something completely different. And Corey, I would almost go as far to say that I think when Balisarius tells Kora that the king plans on, when the princess takes over and becomes the ruler of the world, that the king is going to wipe out all the generals because he's worried they won't be able to handle the differences and the changes that Princess Issa implements. Mm-hmm. I think he lies. I don't think he's telling the truth. I think he's trying to gaslight more of the military senators to join him, because I just don't see the king being like, hey, we're going to this peaceful route, but first I'm going to godfather all of you and get rid of the military leaders. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's money to be made, obviously, and when you take certain aspects of businesses away, then people who run that stuff is going to be upset. So I think you're right, Trey. I think he was lying. I think he was trying to get everybody on the same side, and that's a great catch, Trey.
Yeah, and of course he's playing chess at this point, right? He's getting all the pieces lined up to get the senators on his team, to let them know, like, hey, I'm going to take out the king and I'm going to rule the way we've always envisioned. We're a world of fighters, we're a world of warriors, and a military driven society, and we're going to continue our reign of power, not this BS peaceful princess crap. He's like, so I'm gonna wipe out the entire royal family. And you start to see the manipulation. She fears him, right? Balisarius is a manipulator beyond belief. And you can understand, as she even says, make no mistake, I am a loyal servant of my father. Which is why when he betrays her in that moment, when he says, like, what did you do? You killed everyone, putting the blame on her, while she feels insanely betrayed, and in that moment her reaction is to pull the gun on him, right? But he's manipulated her so much that she can't pull the trigger. You can see the psychological terror that this dude has had on her. She just can't do it, and it makes more sense now than I think it did in the PG-13 cut, Corey, which I would say, do you have different thoughts about Kora? Because you and I debated maybe 30 minutes on live stream during our PG-13 review that you said Kora is irredeemable. What she does in part 2, when she was going to surrender to Noble, it made her awful in your eyes.
Yep.
What's your thoughts now?
Yeah, I think the extended edition, the director's cut, has made more sense for Kora's character. That has given her more character development and a little bit better understanding of why she did things the way she did. While I look back and I'd be like, oh yeah, I would have pulled the trigger on them, and just start blasting. So there I was blasting everybody, so it made more sense to me why Kora did things the way that she did, and in return allowed me to ease up on Kora's character than compared to the PG-13 Kora. I absolutely hated her,
and I think it's because they didn't take the time to showcase what really happened to her, back then, and to see the changes she was making at that time. But I think once again, when he's like, I'll bring you back to your father. Like when Noble says that to her, I'll bring you back to your father and no one has to die here. We'll just leave. I think once again, that internal psychological control that he has on her brain, Balisarius, that she is able to feel like that scared little child again, that she knows Balisarius just won't let her go unless if she goes with him,
Absolutely, and especially when you see the brutality of the Motherworld and what Noble has done and what Balisarius has done and what they do, it was confusing. General Titus, in the movie, as well as the PG-13 version, he explicitly says that, oh yeah, I gave up and they killed all my men, and it's like all this just garbage of how they never say what they're going to do. So it's like, oh, why is Kora, like, she's hearing it, she knows it, why did she if she knows that they're not going to do what they say they're going to do, why is she for having any doubt or question in her mind? Where the extended cut, now it shows a little bit deeper into the storyline. It definitely expanded on Kora quite a bit, and it made sense why she didn't pull the trigger in that room, and why she just made a ran for it, because she could have easily, she's a talented warrior. She could have wiped out quite a few of them, in there. So, as well as the senators and that stupid orchestra band in the back playing around as.
I still love, just like, it would be great. Are we still playing here? Like, what's happening? That's still to be like one of the coolest scenes. Other than I would have liked, instruments that didn't look of our world. But I still think it's an epic scene. Man, and I think another character, as I was reading someone say, Nemesis has a really cool arc too. And here's what I'll say about Nemesis' character. I love the simple fact that you could kind of get a piece of it in the PG-13 cuts, but it really, like, it's in your face at this moment. You would have to be oblivious to understand what is happening. And once again, it's not many words being spoken. It's just facial reactions and expression going on, body language. And you can understand she is terrorized by the past, losing her family. And so many people, I was reading different reviews and articles that some people had, and they were just talking about how part 2 in the PG-13 cut just had so unnecessary scenes of the harvest in part 2. I would strongly disagree with that, because here's the whole point of this movie. Essentially, this first part 1 and part 2 was the first part is getting your gang together, right? Getting the team together to take on the Imperium. As you see, they're all broken down, outcast people who just have a lot of baggage. And in a way, a lot of them are dead inside. You got Titus. He's a drunk. He has no reason to live. He even says, like, leave me alone. Just let me die in peace. Like, I don't want to think about my past anymore. Just let me die. You have Tarek's character, who's just like, I'm a slave here for another 24 years, basically. So just, if I can help, great. But, I abandoned my home world. There's nothing to him, right? Like, he's just going through life. And you got Nemesis, who's trying to make a difference. She's just living a life of hate, anger, vengeance. That's all she can think about. It's just, I just want to kill the Imperium. Her story, she even says, like, your plan is suicide. But do I get to kill Imperium? Done. I'm there. I'll kill him. You have all these characters who are just like, I'm dead inside. I'm just going through this life to freaking kill, to just find a reason to die. But when they get to this place of Velt, where they're promised money or rewards to fight the Imperium, something they would gladly do for free, what do you start to see with them as they help the people harvest? We heard it in part 1, where Sentry says, we feel, harvesting this land connects us more to it. It binds us, of the food that feeds us. And what you see with these characters, and why they take the time to show our cast, our core of rebels, helping them harvest, is they start to find a reason to fight. They're not fighting for just anger, revenge, just simply because they're going to get a reward. They're now fighting because they understand what freedom is. They found purpose again with the people of Velt, the villagers, and being connected to the land and finding a good reason to die now. And you start to see some of them come back alive. Titus stops drinking. He's now become the general that we've heard he is. You start to see Nemesis dead inside, right? Because she had no longer children. She starts to see this kid is able to pull back her layers and make her vulnerable again, to make her smile again, to where she is that, what, the banner that Sam gives her. So a lot of these characters go through this really powerful arc to where they're on a war path that's going to just completely take them down. There's no reason for their, other than just negative, dark hate for the Imperium. But now they have a reason to defend because they love the world, and I think it was so powerful and so beautiful, that story arc, that sometimes I think is missed on a lot of war movies. We kind of just get into the action, to the brutality of it, and there is that obviously in Zack's Rebel Moon movie here, but now we're getting purpose, and we're seeing these characters find their reason again, find themselves to live again, which is why it also makes sometimes their deaths even more heartbreaking, because now they finally found a reason to live. Just like Kora in a way, she's kind of broken at the end of part 2. She found hope through Gunnar, and Gunnar meets his demise, but he kind of says, like, no, like, after this you got to go on. Like, you did it. Like, you saved us. This is your calling. The rebellion is just starting. The rebels, as Darian Bloodaxe was saying, there's like, who are we as a rebellion if we do not fight? If we do not rebel and help these people? Then if we don't do anything, the rebellion is meaningless. yes, they've been tactful, and if you read the comics, yeah, they're doing their stuff, right, to help. But at the same time, here they have a noble cause to help these people, and the whole rebellion doesn't
Mm,
go, yeah, let's go help you guys.
mm,
It takes them a bit to be like, these we need to help. We need to
mhm,
get into this fight. We have an opportunity here to make a stand and show up the rebellion, take down the Kingsgays. It's so much of an arc that
mm.
happens here that I think if you're wanting to hear it through words, then maybe you don't see it or you don't hear it, right? You don't hear the character arc. But if you're paying attention to details in the visuals, I think you're getting a lot of
Mm.
extra good story.
And I like what you said there, Trey. Everybody was lost. You went through all the main characters, like you said, Kora and Titus and Nemesis and so on. Everybody was. And I love what you said just there, because that's what I was going to toss in there. Because even the Blood Axe rebellion was lost as well. Because if they're not willing to fight the rebellion for a small planet like this, then what's the rebellion even really mean? So like,
Exactly.
Darian Bloodaxe said it best, in that speech, that amazing speech that he gave. So,
Yeah. And I think, that speech is definitely one of the highlights of that particular part. To me, there's just so much rich details in the stories that we got with Rebel Moon here. But I think the lore that Zack started building, once again, we actually got some more details about the lore in this director's cut, and it has me more fascinated because, once again, right, I don't know what to expect. I don't know the years past. We have a really fleshed out Star Wars universe, Star Trek universe, Batman universe. We know the past of Jurassic Park to go into Jurassic World. We have all these fleshed out IP universes, right, with Marvel and everything. But here we're experiencing it for the first time. And one particular thing I thought was so fascinating and exciting about this particular director's cut that they didn't really give us in the PG-13 was the engines of the Kingsgays, of their military ships, the dreadnoughts. They have these giant beings they've hooked up as the engines that they feed genetic material to, of their victims, their fallen enemies, skulls that they're shoving into, the oh gosh, I'm totally spacing what they're called. The furnaces, to heat the flames to feed the engine, right? And it's this creature. It's this being that they've contained and imprisoned that they're torturing. Every time they do hyperspace, and warp drive, you see this being cry and in pain. And that to me is like an insanely cool concept, that these big ass ships they're very much what they are, right? These military dreadnoughts that are just wiping people out. They are terrors. They are, when you see that ship in the sky, it's not a good sign. They're there to imprison you. And to have a being that has given them the power to travel and conquer worlds is a imprisoned giant being it's just crazy to me. I love that. I love that. So, Corey, what did you think about that? I hope at some point they go further into that, because even the giant being was kind of like, hey, like, I know you can't, they have a vision where they're communicating telepathically. And she's like, Cora, I know you don't want to do this, but like Princess Issa, I'm going to forgive you. But no, my sister's wrath will be avenged. Like they will avenge me. Kind of setting what could be the third movie or fourth movie at some point, where these giant beings, maybe on the dreadnoughts, are unleashed onto the Motherworld. That's insane.
Dude, I was a little sad, probably a bummer to this movie that we didn't dive deeper into that, because that was such an interesting aspect to this movie. Like, we've never really seen that in anything before. Like, these ships are, and it's great too, because typically you refer to ships and everything with lady names and everything like that. So here we
Yeah.
have this lady who is actually the life of the ship, and I think that's something that they definitely need to go into. Like, I want to know, like, obviously they're setting it up for more, and I know we can't get all of that because then it would have been like a 10-hour movie. But yes, I really, really hope that they go into it. It was cool that they were feeding her with life as well too, with like or with death, like the bones and everything like that. So it was just a very unique, who thought of that? How did Zack Snyder think of that? Yeah, sure, okay, you got it from ship's alive, different things like that, but like it was insane. That it's such an interesting concept to me that I really hope that they dive deeper into that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I was reading someone's comment who says, I wonder if it will have anything to do with the prophecy of Issa. Was that Kaiju Craig? Yeah. I dig that, and I think maybe that will come to fruition at some point, because you see Princess Issa in front of them, in front of these giant beings, that I wonder if maybe that's how she survived. Maybe, as they say at the end, that she's not dead. So maybe whoever was this engine, the soul of the ship, the Peacemaker that she was on, maybe it was able to help her escape through its energy, because we saw that Noble has to utilize a ton of that energy from the beings, that it drains a lot of the ship, and that's why they're not allowed to warp core right away to Velt to take out the rebels. It takes some time because they tired out the being that they were feeding all the matter, that they had to use so much energy to heal Noble again, which is it's a cool storyline. And you know what? It helps explain why they just don't warp core back right away for Noble to just wipe them out. So I don't know. It's definitely, for me, I loved the visuals of how those things warp core. It's an insane concept that I agree, Super Bro. I hope they go further into it with Rebel Moon Part 3. Like that, it's just, sign me up, dude. Sign me up. It's a cool concept for sure. Corey, is there any other major differences for you that of the stories of what improved the director's cut so much over the PG-13?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of it was just madly needed in order to fix a lot of my complaints about Kora. Even the final scene of her thinking about giving herself up, that final fight, that frustrated me so much in the PG-13 series that I was annoyed with it. We literally talked 30 minutes about it, and it didn't make sense to me. It felt disingenuous. It felt disjointed, and I didn't like it at all. It did not do well for the part 2 version for me. While there's a lot of cool stuff, there was that part, Kora annoyed me so much, and I did not care about her character with that. So this extended cut helped with that decision, all that last minute of oh man, maybe if I do turn myself in, maybe they will leave this planet right now, type thing. I think she kind of knew that there was a plan already, if she was taken out right then and there, that they would have been fighting with, the general and Turok and Nemesis right around the corner. So it makes more sense to me now that, I'm just going to go with them and hopefully they leave. And if they don't, then, the rest of the people, I have some trusted people there that can continue to fight, being the general and everybody else. So it made me feel much better about Kora, and I eased up quite a bit watching part 2 I'm like, okay, this is making sense. It makes sense how she's interacting with Noble, and at that point too, Noble also felt like his focus changed as well. I think they did a better job of displaying that, like where like Noble was like, you know what, I'm just going to take her right now, and I'm going to become a senator now. Like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. I'm getting the promotion that I've always wanted. So we're just going to smack her and then warp speed back to Baltharius, and I'm going to be, I'm going to be done with the ship anyway. So nothing really matters anymore anyway. So it made sense now to me. So I felt much better about this story versus the PG-13. To be honest with you, I know this is probably something that you would want me to wait to the end, but
go ahead.
I'm never watching the PG-13 ever again.
Corey, I feel like that's fair to say, because we pretty much have gone over just about all the movie, and I think it comes to that question of PG-13 cut.
Well, I know you had this slide too. Didn't you?
We'll talk about the cast in just a moment, but I did brought up this slide from part 1, A Child of Fire, part 2, The Scargiver, the PG-13 cuts versus the R-rated director's cuts of A Chalice of Blood and The Curse of Forgiveness. Will you ever watch the PG-13 cuts again? As you think you just said it, didn't you?
Dude, I'm trying to forget the PG-13 cuts. The PG-13 cuts, sure, it was Zack Snyder's material, but it wasn't Zack Snyder's vision, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't his true vision. Yeah. Things made so much more sense. And, they were incredibly gruesome. That Atticus Noble scene, I won't see that scene ever again. My eyes will be shut, like, because that stuff is like, oh, yeah.
Are you talking about the creature thing, the little hentai moment?
Oh no, the snapping and everything like that, just like, like the some of the different,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
but I have no interest in ever watching the PG-13. And I have a little bit more to say about that, but I don't want to say it yet, so I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah, we'll certainly say that, because we're going to talk about how Netflix made a mistake, which I can't believe I'm saying, because usually I think Netflix makes a lot of great decisions. And, we'll get to that. So make sure you stick around. I think, to me, the PG-13 versions are just not fleshed out well. Part 1 is a rushed story that is a extremely cool concept, and the visuals, the cinematography, it's still there, it's still fire, but the story greatly lacks because they're just trying to get the team together and get us ready for part 2. Part 2 is a better film because it is a war movie. It's we're fighting for Velt. And like you said, if Zack does anything extremely well, it is definitely war movies. So already part 2 was a better film. The director's cut, Corey, maybe you'll agree with me on this. I felt, while the director's cut, obviously it's extended longer. We talked about the stats of the run times and stuff like that. We haven't really deep dive in saying which one improved more. And I think part 1 got the most benefit from the director's cut. There's so much good fleshed out story there, and the pacing is so much better. I don't mind long stories. I don't. To me, I never bother with the Lord of the Rings theatrical cuts. It's extended cut. The moment I knew there was an extended cut of Lord of the Rings and watched them, and of The Hobbit, I have not seen the theatrical cut of Lord of the Rings probably since like 2008. Once I figured out there were such things as the extended cuts. So to me, it's just one of those things where part one greatly benefits from the pacing, the story driven, the character arcs that we see these guys go through, and a bit of the chronological differences. Like, they actually took footage from part two and put it in part one, where you see the villagers going to get Kora's ship out of the dirt. And to me, why you ask, like, well, that was just in part two, what was the point of putting it in part one? It shows that the villages aren't just sitting on their asses while Kora is getting the team together to help fight. They're preparing for her return. They're getting the ship ready rather than waiting until part two, which is, I think it's at least almost 10 weeks since they've last seen her, because when they get back, they hear 5 days before the Imperium is back for their harvest. So time has gone by. It's good that they didn't just waste time and showed that the villagers are actually trying to do something about the upcoming battle they're about to face. So I think part one greatly benefits from the extended cut. I think part two does as well, but I think that was already a better film, so it doesn't benefit as much. Other than, you just get some really cool scenes, some explanations about the battle sequences and why they make some of the decisions and the tactics that they do, that makes it really, really good. As Christian Disciple says, the Callie was not free. Kora got to see inside the bonded Callie's mind. She will not only go on a search for Izza, but also the Callie to exact vengeance. Notice revenge can be righteous. I think that it's certainly leading to that, Christian. I think you're onto that, which I'm excited to see the sisters that this being has, and how they could exact vengeance on the entire Motherworld to have a force to be reckoned with against the Motherworld. Because as we saw at the end with King Balisarius, he has a big army ready to go, and he's even worse than Noble, so we'll see. So I think part one definitely got the benefit of the director's cut. Part two did as well, but it was already a solid movie compared to part one. Corey, let's talk about the cast. We always like to talk about cast and performance. We kind of already talked about it with story, but we can go over it quickly with the cast. I think, as we kind of said, some of the characters that really benefited were people like Eris and Kora. Gunner's character even had some really nice development. It was great to see more of the king and Princess Issa, to show how she's able to kind of peel back the layers on Kora too. Like, she feels guilty. She knows exactly what her father's trying to do, and to have like kind of that relationship between them and the king was really nice to see. I just think this is like an amazing cast right here. Just looking at this list of casts, I kind of go like, damn, we did really good. We got Corey Stalls, we got Sofia Boutella, we got Ray Fisher, we got Carrie Elwes, like all these incredible
Ed
actors.
Skrein, buddy, you forgot to say Ed Skrein.
Ed Skrein, sorry. Yeah, I know Corey likes to say Noble. Corey, I know you like Noble. I mean, it was even Ed Skrein said, if you thought PG-13 was good, get ready to see what my character does in the R-rated cut, because it's amazing. And you could tell he had a lot of fun with this one. as a role of just where you get to be as brutal and just violent and kind of do things that are just, he really made the villain his own. And while I'm sad to see his villain, probably we won't ever see him again. I mean, he won't be the head of the ship anymore, or the head of the table. I think he made a memorable villain that even far superior than what he did in the first Deadpool movie. So kudos to him, man. Or in Battle Angel Alita. Yeah, great one, Koj. I forgot about that. Corey, is there anything you want to say about the cast in general?
Man, just great casting all around by Snyder. Anthony Hopkins as Jimmy. Like when I first heard that casting, I was like, is Jimmy going to be able? Is Anthony Hopkins going to be able to play a character like that, like him, and bam, he just straight up kills it. Yeah, he did a fantastic job casting. I don't know. I don't know if there was anything that was missing out of the cast. They just did a fantastic job.
I mean, the only one I would love to see more of, I would love them to do maybe a spin-off with the House of Blood Axes to get more Ray Fisher, to get more of just the entire Blood Axe cast, because I thought they're really cool, and we didn't get enough of Ray Fisher in there. I just, for the small scenes we did get him with, one of my favorite things that even like, it's such a small role, right? And Ray Fisher, we talked about this with Samantha Wynn, our good friend Samantha, when she was on our show, and we interviewed her from, Army of the Dead, a lot of Zack's movies with Wonder Woman. She was a Kryptonian in Man of Steel, just an incredible actress. She was even in a Mortal Kombat film. And I had asked her, how do you make a character so amazing and and just draws you in with the audience and engaging in such little time? And she was just like, you just got to give it all. You just got to try to find that connection with the character of what makes them great. And in the short amount of time that you have with them, really flesh them out through little details. And I'm so glad she kind of went through that in a deeper dive. If you guys ever want to check out that video, do it with a full circle, because we had a great conversation and some really cool guests with Samantha as she deep dived into that. But with Ray Fisher here, there were a lot of details, even with Darian Bloodaxe, when you first see him and he has the rebellion with him and his sister, and they're Kora's kind of showing him up and kind of shame on you, for not wanting to join us and help us. And she's like, this guy gave you food, and because of that, our world's going to be destroyed. What kind of rebellion are you? And Darian doesn't say anything. He walks right up to him and stares him down in the eyes. And it's not him really sizing him up. It's trying to find out what kind of man Gunnar is. And I think he sees, just reading his eyes, he was able to realize the type of man that Gunnar was and how his people were worth fighting for. And I think just having that moment, it's kind of like when you get these awkward silences in movies, and this one works because he's just staring him down and he's just like, okay, I'll fight with you. I know what kind of man you are. And through that, and then his speech that he gives not 2 minutes later is just such a powerful thing. Are you ready to die for what you believe instead of hiding behind it? Right. That we said it before. It's tough to make, a war movie speech that is rememberable. And I felt like that one is, because we've seen those types of speeches time and time again, but Kojay says, you can see the character depth and sincere performance as the combination of performer, written backstory in a great direction. Yeah, I loved that. The short amount of time, each character, even though they may have a small time, even Corey Stoll's character, right, with Sindri, was wonderful. He gave you the vibe of what that village is like when it's all peaceful. So great cast all around. Just and Kai still breaks my heart with Charlie Hunnam. Oh God, his betrayal breaks me. I loved his character. He was such a cool dude. Turned into a freaking dick. Terry talking about Venice was another profound moment about freedom from fear of oneself. Yes, Christian. Yes, dude. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I really hope they go into Tarek more, especially in the future films. Maybe when they get to his world, as he kind of becomes the Return of the King kind of thing. I don't know. There's some good story that I think is there if they want to go for it. And now, Corey, of course, we got to talk about director Zack Snyder. Whether you like him, you hate him, one thing can't be denied is he has a true eye for the visuals, for the look of a movie and world building. I think he sets a lot of storytelling up through visuals that if you want to deep dive and do a masterclass on his stuff, then I think there's a lot there you could find. like I said, whether you like him or dislike him, I think he has a great eye. And personally, I really enjoyed this story he had to tell. I thought he created a fascinating world, a beautiful world, especially like when the Veld at night was just such a cool planet. Of course, we had to have it as the background of our show. That I think he just has a great eye for this sci-fi stuff. And to me, it always seems like he's very forward thinking, that it may be controversial when it first comes out, but over time you start to peel back all the different things that are going on with the movies. And I think this will be another movie. I think the director's cut, you'll constantly pull back the layers and find all the cool things and all the setups that he did for future movies, that I think sometimes the difficulty with some people watching Zack's films is they only do this with it. You know, they're so one-sided. This is the movie, here's the movie. And they don't see the full story that is being built. And I think if we ever do get the full, I think Zack said he had 6 more films he could do with this easily. I think if we ever got that, I tend to realize, just like a lot of people said with the whole Snyderverse of the DC films, Man of Steel got improved by the first 10 minutes of BVS. People went back to it and were like, oh, Man of Steel is the better film than I first thought it was. Then you saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you're like, oh my God, Zack Snyder's Justice League, just from the first 10 minutes, that made that made BVS even better. So I think it's a lot of that. I think he sets up a lot of things that if you get to see, he doesn't quite show his hand with all the cards, but once he gets to the end of the story arc, you're kind of like, oh, everything was connected for a reason. Nothing was done without purpose. Everything had reason behind it. And to me, I like that with director. I think Christopher Nolan does that. I think Peter Jackson does that. Steven Spielberg. I think there's a lot of wonderful, even Quentin Tarantino, some of the great directors out there, they have that ability to have that foresight of, I'm going to set this up and you're going to see it come. If I get to this, you're going to see why I did it the way, why you kind of had a question about it, and then brings it back up. And I think that's what makes it rewarding as a viewer to watch some of these movies. So kudos to Zack, director of photography, director, writer, producer on this. I felt he brought a very interesting world to Netflix that I hope they let him do more. But I got to be honest with you, to get to the main point of this whole freaking show, Corey, did you want to say anything about Zack? I'm sorry, I didn't even let you have your moment.
Wow, buddy.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think the same thing that always could be said about Zack, that he is a mastermind. He has just a way of tackling movies, a way of tackling a universe that is so unique and fascinating and in depth that I think you're absolutely right. People put the blinders on and just see what's in front of them and not understand the stuff that's in the background. Similar to how Ryan Reynolds handles Deadpool, where just like with Zack Snyder or Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movies, here's the part that they want you to focus on, but look at this part over here because you're probably going to miss something, and you might not catch it until the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 20th, 100th time you've seen the movie, but there's always something to see. And I think that's what's so great about Zack Snyder, and with him being such a visually focused and in-depth focused director, writer, creator, that it's what makes his movies so special.
I would agree with that, Corey. I just think, like I said earlier, you either like his stuff or you don't. And I think if you hate it, you're just going to hate it because you just don't like his style. And that's fine. I hope you have a director that you kind of gravitate towards their artistic style. I don't think it's anything to, be rude or attack those directors for any reason. But to me, if you dig this way of storytelling where it looks like a comic book or a anime coming to life, which I find very visually appealing. I love that. One of my favorite things about The Walking Dead was each episode had a little hidden detail, a little hidden meaning about where they were going. Maybe it was a Bible verse or some type of symbolism going on that was like, oh, okay. I love directors that do that. I love directors that they don't have to say it. They don't have to put it in the script. It's just visually, if you're paying attention, it's there. So I will continue to enjoy Zack Snyder's movies, even if there's a few out there who just hate it because I think someone said it because they think it's cool.
Yeah, that's the Batman Who Laughs. He said that, and I love what Good Soldier follows Order 66 says. He says, "Look, I'm not a big Snyder fan, but even I think Rebel Moon DC were spectacular." And Darkstar Killer Unleashed says, "I'll second that." Good Soldiers follow Order 66.
I'm very happy to hear you guys say it. For you guys being new members and audience, people of this channel who I know are very big Star Wars fans, obviously. Who are, checked us out during the Acolyte days. I find it very awesome and kind of making this experience better to hear your guys' thoughts, especially because you have seen that criticism, that kind of unwarranted criticism, I think, or kind of premeditated criticism that Snyder gets, and you're starting to just watch it for yourself, which I always recommend. Watch it for yourself. Go in without. I went into watching the PG-13 cuts, and I did get beat up a little bit from Snyder fans who are kind of like, Trey, how could you just not say it was a masterpiece or that Rebel Moon is just a great scene? It's because the PG-13, as I said before, it was Snyder light. It wasn't Snyder. It felt like a studio version of what they want Snyder to be. And you can just tell when you mess with an artist, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel real or original. It feels manipulated. So let's go ahead and talk about that. We've kind of built into it. Let's talk about Netflix real quick. Netflix, the title of this whole episode, Rebel Moon's director's cut. Netflix made a huge mistake. How did they make a huge mistake?
Huge mistake, Trey.
Huge mistake. Probably the worst. I don't know.
Sad.
How did they make a huge mistake? I understand the economics of wanting to release a PG-13 cut, because PG-13, right, means could be for a wider audience, a younger age group, kind of getting into that, group to widen your base of who could all watch it. At the same time, if it's a lesser quality, which I think it's fair to say, the PG-13 cut is a lesser quality, in my opinion. It's a lesser quality film. And it may have turned some people off. And I think whether you like Snyder's style or not, it was just not up to the quality. The first one, and that's where I looked at. I'm a Snyder fan. I like a lot of the movies he does. And I even was saying in the PG-13 cut, this wasn't it. This wasn't quite there. It's a cool start. It's a good, solid start. But this wasn't it. Seeing part one, I'm still debating on whether part one, the director's cut, is actually better than part two. I'm having that internal struggle. I don't know, because to me, part one director's cut had so much character growth and arcs going on through it that it's like, ooh, so good. So how I figured out how to beat that conversation?
How did you do it, Trick?
I'm not going to look at them as part one, part two. I'm going to look at it as one damn thing.
Which is what we've been saying for a little bit now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I honestly, I can't do it. I've been arguing with myself, even talking the Wonder Wife. When I showed Sarah, Wonder Wife is a generic fan. I love her because she is that general audience who just doesn't know the backstory. She doesn't watch the behind the scenes. She doesn't hear all the news going on. She just watches the movie and decides if she likes it. She liked the PG-13 cuts. She felt the same. That is like, yeah, there's something not fulfilled here in part one. Part 2 she loved because she loves action movies. She almost loves action movies more than I do. And she, watching the director's cut immediately after the first movie, she was like, oh yes, like this is what I wanted. She's like, this was good. And I felt the positivity like radiating from her. Like, I'm keeping quiet. I'm watching the movie for the third time, and I can tell how excited she's getting. Like, oh, this is good. So when I know Wonder Wife is having a good time, I can kind of go like, oh, okay, this is a great film then. It's just not me being a Snyder fan here. So easily, she's like, she even said, I'll never watch the PG-13 cuts again. So I have to ask, yes, it gets you that initial view. And here's what I say is the issue with the PG-13 films. I understand economically, right? They got double the worth of content out of a $165 million budget. That's insane. And a lot of views from it. But most of the time, studios push PG-13 cuts and smaller cuts duration-wise, so that way people can go in and out of the theater. More showings means more dollars. More showings means more dollars in theaters. You get what I'm trying to say here?
We're streaming, big fella.
We're streaming. Who the hell? The showings don't matter for streaming. Yeah, I mean, other than viewership, yes, but it doesn't work the same way as theatrical cuts do, where they're purposely trying to get people in and out of the movie, and then there you go, you're in. It's what caused the issue with BVS, where they're like, Zach, we need to remove 20 minutes from this movie. Please, we need to remove 20 minutes so that way we can get people in and out, make a lot of money. Those 20 minutes were vital to the story. And just as I thought with this PG-13 cut, it was like, it was rushed. It wasn't as good of a story. And you may have lost some people who were looking like, the general audience people were kind of just like, it wasn't good. It just wasn't done well. Well, that wasn't even Zack's true vision. That wasn't even the director's true original idea put on the screen. It was the studio version. And I think I personally believe Netflix may have lost, and it was a costly mistake of showing the PG-13 cut first to make those general audience people go, not interested, and may have not checked out the R-rated cut. Because how different could it be a director's cut? I have a good friend, Mr. Anderson, who says all the time, director's cuts make no difference. It's still the same story. I just watched part 1 and it makes it so much better. It helps the quality. It helps the pacing. When you let the director tell the story that he wants to tell. I'm just saying, the director's cuts are far superior. I have people that I work with who are not Snyder fans. I work for a company that the movies are their business, and they see tons of movie. All my coworkers see tons of movies, and even they were like, "Oh, I heard the PG-13 one wasn't good." So, yeah, I won't worry about the director's cut. It's like, for those who did like it and do think it made a huge difference, I think you need to praise it out loud. I think you need to go to social media, and hopefully Netflix learns their lesson that you're streaming until you become a streaming service that owns a theatrical, circuit where you can promote your movies. And yes, I know they had a limited, theatrical release in LA, Chicago, New York, and nowhere else pretty much. Or Texas, I think, was one of them. If you don't have to worry about a domestic, worldwide, theatrical release of your film, then don't do the stream, then don't do the PG-13 cut. Give the quality film on your IP so that when the general audience people watch it, the people who aren't the fans who are just going to show up for the director's cut anyways, because that's the reputation Snyder has built, then then don't give those people anything to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to waste my. If I didn't care about 2 hours of the movie, why would I want to go back for 3.5 hours? Don't let them have that. Just give them the director's cut. Give them the quality story that the director's cut clearly was. So that's, I don't know, Corey, would you agree with that? Or do you think I'm completely wrong?
Dude, I am super pissed off about this, actually. It kind of gets me fired up. And it makes me a little angry as well. Like you said, Trey, theatrical cut, makes sense for theatrical releases. More showing, more money. More showings, more money. That makes sense to me. But Netflix, they're streaming. They could have done numerous 2-hour parts, or as long as they want to give us the better cut from the get-go, Trey. They could have dived deep into it. I'm really jealous of everyone who watched the director's cut first. And, as a content creator, I will never watch a PG-13 cut of Rebel Moon ever again. And in some ways, it Netflix needs to pay attention to this, because I don't know if I will watch a PG-13 Rebel Moon Part 3 before we get an extended director's cut. But what makes me even more frustrated, Trey, is that they told us that there was going to be an extended cut right from the get-go anyways. So we knew that we were getting a PG-13 cut. If all we knew we were going to get a PG-13 cut, then yeah, absolutely, we all would have watched the PG-13 cut, and it would have been, it is what it is. But we knew from the get-go, Trey, that they had an extended cut that they were planning on releasing to us, that we weren't going to have to fight for it, and yet they still released the PG-13 cut.
Yeah.
Stupid-ass move from Netflix. And what frustrates me now as a content creator is that if a PG-13 Part 3 comes out, Trey, I don't want to engage with it. But it needs the engagement in order to potentially continue on with the story, or continue on with a extended cut version. So now I'm in this pickle of like, okay, do I just let it play in the background and I'm not paying attention to it? So it doesn't change my mind, because I can't tell you, dude, how, like, even watching the extended cut this go around, the parts that I was really excited about before were the extended cut scenes that we saw. I already saw the movie. I already knew what was going to happen. I knew who was coming back. I knew who was dead, who wasn't dead. And I almost, I don't want to say I lost interest in it, but there was parts of me that, like, it was like, like, cool, I really loved all the extended cutscenes, but like, great, like, it was just the impactful scenes that we saw, like Blood Axe dying, all these different scenes that were high impact moments. They didn't hold their weight anymore, because I already knew, because I saw this watered down PG-13 shit. So I'm pretty pissed at the PG-13 cut, and I get that that's Zack's, like you said, watered down light. I don't know, Trey, if you can ever get me to watch a PG-13 Zack Snyder Rebel Moon Part 3 cut. I won't be there for it.
And I think that's the difficult part of it, Corey, because I feel like if we would have gotten the R-rated version first, or R-rated version, just R-rated version, I don't think the PG-13 should exist. And that I'm a Snyder supporter, and I'm saying this with it coming from a guy who was like, it's a great start, right? And we're being harsh on it, and I don't want people to think like, oh my god, hashtag Bat Channel's not a Snyder fan, whatever, to me. And I will be honest, when we score Rebel Moon director's cut, I will be 100% honest when I say tweaked is not the right word. I did my best to take out the fact that there was a PG-13 version and just look at this movie, part 1 and 2 together. I did my best to do that, because I think I shouldn't punish this film, this director's cut, because of the PG-13, because some of those moments could have been more impactful if I did see the director's cut first. Instead, about what's going to happen. There's some really cool fleshed out things that make it easily 100% better, but you still, like Corey said, you still know at least this is where we're going to end up at some point.
I had a 30+ minute argument with you and the chat on how stupid Kora was over the PG-13 ones, and now I'm completely okay with her. Like, it completely changed the way I felt about the Rebel Moon movie with her character in it. So it's like, they fucked up royally, Trey. They like rated R bat channel, so they fucked up, buddy. This is what's annoying. Like I hope that they I hope that they don't make the same mistake next. I hope they don't make the same mistake again, because it was just trash, man. It was
go ahead, Super.
I was just gonna say it was trash, because like how can it's trash in the sense of what Mr. Anderson always says too, because I straight up hated Kora. I hated Kora. She was trash, and in this one I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense on how she's handling things. Oh, Noble is a really bad dude, and not just some dude who's trying to get into the politics side of things. Like it's the amount of stuff that was added, and of course, what's the rundown time, Trey? Difference again? You said from earlier.
It's right about 2 hours.
2 hour difference. That's an entire level of another movie to do it. Now, what frustrates me so much is Netflix, just give us the damn director's cut right from the get-go. And you want more engagement? Okay, then you tell Zack Snyder, you do whatever the fuck you want. You make a 2 hour movie, or you make a 10 hour part one of Rebel Moon, and we're going to break it out in 2 hour episodes that will launch in episodes, more of the episode side of things. And if the crazy fans want us to sit down and watch a 10-hour version of it right through, cool. We'll also make a 10-hour version at the very end where you don't even have to hit next on the Netflix thing. It just continues right on. That's the level of
do like an episodic thing, like they almost talked about with the original Zack Snyder's Justice League. They talked about doing a show with it, an episode.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes. And I don't want it to be like and this time on the whatever, I just want just continue it on, but if you need to put in those breaks and such like that, put in those breaks, but give us what we want. You can create more engagement by having Zack Snyder do the entirety of what his vision is right from the get-go, and allow and still have shit tons of content. Because if you want multiple content, if you want a lot of engagement, if you want a lot of content, Zack Snyder's going to give it to you. He's going to give you a 6 hour Rebel Moon part 1 and part 2 thing. Just imagine what could have been done if he's like, you know what, Netflix or Zack Snyder, we're Netflix, do whatever the hell you want, create whatever the hell you want, leave whatever you want. And if it is a 20-hour one concept movie, then guess what, we'll break it out into 3-hour episodes, and we'll release it weekly or bi-weekly for the over the next few days. And that's going to be a shit ton of content that we're going to get right from the get-go.
And I think the important thing to kind of look at too is with the $165 million budget, if you compare it to other Netflix movies and shows and their streaming numbers that they get, they made back everything they needed to just through the streaming viewership on part 1, the PG-13 version. They already made all the money back that they needed to in that one part. So whatever they got in part 2 and these director's cuts is just added profit at this point for Netflix. So did their thing make sense economically? Yeah. Was it the right move in terms of creating the fan base for the IP? Time will tell. I feel like it did more damage than it did good things for Rebel Moon. I think if they would have just allowed the better version of the movie to come out, then I think you have. Look, if you want to check out what's going on Rotten Tomatoes. Once again, I never look at the critic score. The critics just hate Zack. Every film some of the films they rank higher than Snyder's, I kind of go like, how? Like, how is that possible? Like, you really mean to tell me the movie 65 was better than BVS? Like, I liked 65, but even I can admit 65 was not as near the standard and the quality of Batman v Superman, the theatrical cut even, or Man of Steel for that matter. So to me, I'd never listened to critics, but the audience score compared to the PG-13 cut to the director's cut, it is a huge difference between the two. You know, the fans and even the haters are kind of like, okay, the director's cut, it's a better movie without question. So in my opinion, why not just do that? You, like I said, you already know the people you're trying to entice with the director's cut are the fans who are going to show up anyways, so you're not doing anything different with us. What you need to grab is the general audience, the people who are like, oh, let me just check this out because it's new and it's on Netflix, and if you put out the lesser version where they go like, well, that didn't really work out, I'm not going to sit through 6 more hours of this, click, you just lost there. You lost the long game. You played what they did is they played the short game of viewership, and they didn't play the long game of creating a franchise that could frickin' compete with the other major IPs that Universal, Warner Brothers, and Disney has. This, and like I said, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, well, Rebel Moon is dead. I don't think it's dead at all. I think, if anything, if we do get a Rebel Moon 3 and they learn from their mistake of, releasing the PG-13 cut, then it will be a major victory, even though Netflix in a way made some poor decisions. This is Kora telling Noble, I'll surrender and go to you. Yep. It was a poor decision that they shouldn't have made. Yep. And we as the audience, the fans, if you want more Rebel Moon, need to be like Gunner and ring that bell. Let the rebellion fight.
We ringing that bell real hard, Trey. We blasting that bell, man. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, I want a shit ton more Rebel Moon content. I want just Netflix to do it right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I hope, to me, is 6 hours a commitment? 6 hours and 17 minutes, right? Is the total runtime of the director's cut. Yeah, it's a commitment, right? Like you're definitely spending your entire day with that. Wonder Wife and I wasn't able to start it Friday night, but I wanted to react with you guys with a watch party on Saturday, the next day after release. But Wonder and Wife and I, as you guys saw, if you follow me on Twitter at @the_Bat channel, you saw that one night we watched part 1 of the director's cut. Part 2, we made it another date night. And there you go. It's not that, to me, it's streaming. You don't have to worry about run times here in streaming. Watch time is watch time.
I'm going to blast through 10 episodes of The Office every night anyway. So
exactly. People are binging shit anyways. People binge all of Stranger Things when it gets first released. You mean people can't survive 4 hours 3.5 hours of the director's cut? Like, come on now. Jesus, Corey.
No, man, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Netflix made a big mistake here.
I think hopefully, my fear is it could have been it could be, it's too early to say right now. It could be a costly mistake because they could have killed the IP. As I'm just saying that in terms of the general audience, right? Because you have to have the general audience. That's what Marvel is able to achieve, with bringing all the people into their movie theaters to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. Then again, if you release good storytelling and have a really compelling story that the director's cuts were, you could just freaking build this thing to where it makes sense with the comics, the books, the spin-offs, the video games that Roblox did that wasn't that great in the first place. I wish they made a better game. But there's an opportunity here that Netflix, they had one chance, one opportunity, and they let it slip. They didn't capture the opportunity. Now the hope is that even through Netflix's screw up, and I still give Netflix credit because at least you guys had the vision to go, we'll still allow the director's cut. No need for people to protest for it. You know, I at least applaud them for that, you know, and for still being, I think, one of the best streaming services out there because they don't care who the content comes from. They'll just throw out content, right? Mm-hmm. Equal opportunity content. I just want, I can't allow, me personally, I can't have another. I know the DC Snyderverse scene is on pause. Who knows if we'll ever get back. I know David Ayer is fighting for the Ayer cut right now. Hell, they're fighting for the Schumacher cut. DC is just in turmoil. I can't have another story that they just don't complete here. This Rebel Moon thing is fascinating for me. It's a brand new IP. It's brand new sci-fi that is vastly different from other sci-fi IPs out there. Even some of our Star Wars viewers have said the same. So it's not just me saying it. It's fascinating, the lore that they're building. And I petition you guys, if you are really digging Rebel Moon in this universe and the director's cut was cool for you, hopefully, I don't know if we can get it trending. I'm a small channel compared to many. But if we could do like hashtag make Rebel Moon 3, I would be so like, I want to get that trending because I don't want them. Like, I know Zach has a lot of other things planned at the moment. He has Twilight of the Gods. There was the rumor that the Army of the Dead thing is canceled, but it's not. You know, I would say I want them to continue this Rebel Moon theme. I think it's so fascinating. I just want them to make the video games, make the comics, you know, spin off more stuff because I think it's a fascinating universe that we're just seeing come to life. And I don't want it to be over because of a bad studio mistake when actually it's a really good story, in my opinion. So that's my thing.
You know what I also think should be said, Charlie?
What?
I think us as we are content creators and we're, talking about this on the channel. But I think as far as everybody, the battalion, tell a friend to watch the Rebel Moon director's cut. Everybody tell at least one person, 2 people, 3 people. You know what? We want Rebel Moon 3. Everybody tell at least 3 people to watch Rebel Moon, the director's cuts. So tell 3 people, and that's going to be a lot of people by the time we're done telling people. So share the challenge, man. Let's get Rebel Moon 3 happening because I definitely want more of the content, but I want the content the right way.
Yeah, and if anything, I know they're going to take their time to do other things, with Stone Quarry, Zack Snyder's production group. But I want I would like at least a confirmation that they are going to do it. That's just not going to be forgotten. I think that was part of Army of the Dead's issue. If it so is canceled, I know it's already been debunked, but let's just give the haters a little something to eat up. But if it is so in fact canceled, I believe it could be the delay that you had Army of the Dead, which did really well on Netflix at the time. And then you had Army of Thieves, a spinoff that did fairly well, not as good as the first one, but they had an animated series coming out and people were excited about this Planet of the Dead movie that's coming out, but it's been put on hold because Zach's been busy with Rebel Moon. He's created this whole new crazy cool universe. I would almost love to see. I think part of that's been, the fear that it might not ever come out is because the hype is maybe gone down a little bit because everyone's focused on Rebel Moon and then eventually they're going to be focused on Twilight of the Gods. I think the longer you wait, the longer people are going to find other IP to sustain their hunger, so I don't want them to waste too much time by looking at other things when clearly Zack has a vision for a longer story here, and I need it finished. I need to see what Kora and the rebellion do against the Motherworld, you know. So that's my thing. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys get that trending on Twitter, tag us. I think it'd be cool. I'm not going to take credit for it. I just think it's a cool new IP that no studio like Disney can mess up at the moment. And it'd be fresh, something fresh. It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's something entirely different. So we'll have to see. Corey, now we always like to score it. Out of curiosity, though, how are you going to score Rebel Moon? Are you going to do it part 1, part 2, director's cut, or are you going to do it as a whole?
Absolutely, buddy. You know that's how we're going to roll it out. We mentioned right away that, you know what, it's just combining. It's better as one full movie right from the get-go. So, yeah, but I'm having trouble scoring it, Trey. I'm having a hard time scoring it.
Explain to me why are you having trouble?
Just I saw the PG-13, you know, so like it's like, you know, some of those like, oh man, you know, like it was better than the PG-13, obviously, is what I can say, but like the romance of seeing it for the first time was gone with this one. So it's kind of frustrating in that sense. So I'm gonna let you score it first, Trey.
Of course you would. You wouldn't let me think it out.
Fine. You want me to think it out? You want me to do it? You want me to do it?
Do it. Go for it, Corey. Go for it.
9-7.
Wait, hold on. What did you just say?
9-7.
Holy shit. I was, to be honest with you, I was not expecting it. I thought you were still in the low 9s.
I wasn't. I think I gave it a low 9. The PG-13 scores have dropped significantly for me, and the PG-13 isn't even in my top 5 favorite movies of last year anymore now. So,
oh wow, it's that drastically different for you.
Oh yeah. I would give Snyder Light.
Snyder Light beer.
Yeah. I'll give that the PG-13. That score is probably down in the 6s now for me. Worth the watch maybe one time. Actually, no, it's lower than that. The PG-13 for me is a do not watch. So it's under 5 now. So it's like the 3, you know, the PG-13 one. So we have a 9-7 and a PG-13's being don't watch.
Okay. Great. Damn, man. You gave me a lot to think about. So, yeah. So, as I said earlier, I was trying really hard to forget what PG-13 versions of this movie did, how it took away some initial reactions of the director's cut. But I also look at how good the director's cut is compared to the PG-13. That's why I was like, I have to separate those two. I can't think about how the PG-13 versions that we already saw kind of ruined the experience. And I say ruined very lightly because I still had a great time watching it with you guys. I keep thinking about how after watching Rebel Moon, I've realized it was kind of a weird situation. For my dad, Star Trek was the thing, right? Came out in the 60s. It was all the rage with the space race that was going on. And then it was, you know, when in the 80s, 70s, he had Star Wars, and it was that generation's, sci-fi odyssey that they really loved. And then you had Dune come out in the early 80s that they were trying to bank off of Star Wars, even though it's a book that came out earlier, obviously. But I think about all the themes, right? Like we kind of had our own like this is our sci-fi IP, and I kind of felt like Rebel Moon is that for me. It is that sci-fi that I can say this belongs to my generation. and is really, really cool. And I hope I can geek out the way my father-in-law does with Dune, or Dad does with Star Trek. This is something that I get to geek out with my kids, and my kids will look at me like I'm crazy when whatever, sci-fi craziness they have. So I'm going to give it. I'm very invested in it. I'm very invested in this universe. And like I said, I'm trying very hard not to let the PG-13 mess with the score. Putting part 1 and part 2 together, I felt like part 1, where it was easily below an 8 for me with the PG-13 cut, the director's cut made it a masterpiece, in my opinion. The pacing was better. The storytelling was better.
Yep.
And I struggle now with, do I like part 1 over part 2, which I didn't think was going to happen, because I loved, you guys remember, I gave part 2, the PG-13 one, an 8.8. So I'm going to give it, Corey, I think I'm going to give it a 9.8. It might grow from there too. It's grown on me. Did you give it a 9.8, or were you 9.7?
I think I gave it a 9.7, but
okay.
Honestly, the only reason I dropped it down a few points was because I watched the PG-13 cut. Like, it is a masterpiece. And the reason why the PG-13 is going to affect me no matter what is because I saw Blood Axe die before in a PG-13 cut. I saw these other things, so there were stuff that still removed me from the I knew what was going to happen. Like, okay, yep, cool, So that was the biggest issue for me. If I saw this one first, I probably would have been debating with it being a 10. It was that damn good.
Okay. Wow.
And I'm so excited for this universe.
I am too.
The PG-13, I was like, I don't really like Kora. I don't really care about her as a warrior. To be honest with you, the PG-13 didn't really make me excited for the Rebel Moon 3. I wanted more content, but the PG, I didn't want. I was hoping Rebel Moon 3 wasn't around Kora because she was annoying me, and now I did Kora. Like she's been redeemed in a lot of ways for me now. So it's like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say I was very surprised when you told me that at the end of our watch party of part 2, when you're like, hey, this fixed Kora for me. I was like, I did not expect you to have that reaction. I was hoping it would, because to me, it made more sense of the arguments I was telling you but it kind of not.
You read the book.
Well, I read the book, so I had some insight, but it was a bit of an unfair advantage based off what you were just watching. But I'm glad that what was in the novelization that really is now, they can't even call it the novelization, it's just the director's cut, screenplay basically. I'm glad you had the same reaction. So what's the rest of the chat saying, Corey?
A lot of great scores. That's what they're saying, my friend. Starting off with Koj, combined, I give it a 9.8. Wayne Enterprises, I would give it a 9.6. Kaiji Crazy Craig Rowland, a 9.5. This is a big one, a 9.4 from Good Soldiers Follow Order 66. That's really impressive. I wasn't sure if you guys
did he give it, a 9.4?
9.4, yeah, which is very impressive, from people who weren't too sure about it. 9.6 from King Donkey Kong. 9.5, whoa, from Darth Star Killer Unleashed. So another huge score from that. 9.8 from Trevor H. Koji says his PG-13 score has dropped. The Batman Who Laughs, 9.69. Is the 0.69 for all the sex scenes? 9.8, baby, from Red Hooded Outlaw. 9.5 from Brogu. A 9.9 from Oracle's Clock Tower. She says, for me, it's tied with ZSJL. A 9.8 from Beyond the Night. A 9.5 from The Butler. A
a 9.8 from Carrie Kelly, another 9.8 from Joker's Wild, a 9.999999999 from 9 Lives in Hell here, 9.7 from Bat Fanatic, a 10 from hashtag Restore the Snyderverse guy, and 9.4 from Attack Kaiju 1954, Keo Lee. KJ says 9.7 for part 1, 9.9 for part 2, and that's why together it's a 9.8.
Nice.
9.3 from Red Robin. We have a 9.5 out of 10 from Dean Classified Monarch Eyes Only. We have a lot of people saying, make sure you hashtag make Rebel Moon 3. Hell yes, hashtag make Rebel Moon 3. Yep, for Noble and the Squid Creature. That is why we got the 0.69. That's great. God. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so dude, do we have any scores that were 8? No, everything was 9.4 or higher, buddy.
I'm very surprised by that. And I would say to any of our replay crew, obviously comment all the way throughout it. And hey, even if you didn't like Rebel Moon, I would love to hear your reasons why.
Absolutely.
Obviously be respectful, as we'll be respectful to you. Because I understand some things just don't affect you the same way it affects other people. We all pull from different experiences and different things we like. But if you tell me your only reason is, well, Zack Snyder just sucks, then already I'm just not going to listen to your comment, because you got to give me more than Zack Snyder just sucks. Like, you just, okay. Why in this particular case did the director not achieve a good story for you? And if you just say, well, just because I don't like him, then yeah, then sit down, sit down and go watch something that makes you happy. To me, I just think Netflix, if you're listening, this is someone who loves your streaming service. I love Stranger Things. I love some of the other content you guys. Hell, when you brought back Lucifer, I loved that show. I think it's still one of the best TV shows you guys ever brought back to life. And I hope you guys learn from this and don't do it again. I think you ruined some of the experience with releasing the PG-13, and it didn't need to be that way. You're a streaming service, and until you get a theater circuit business going around to where you can release these movies all around in the theater, you don't need to be worrying about no ratings. You don't need to be worrying about run times and durations. It's a streaming service. There's a reason why people like your streaming service, because they can just hit pause when they need to get up and go to the bathroom. Unlike the movie theaters. Just saying, you don't need to do it. Put out the better story. Put out the better quality from the get-go. Don't play this game. It wasn't smart, in my opinion. If someone, if someone loved the PG-13 versions over the director's cut, and you won't bother with the director's cut again, please comment in the chat. I would love to hear your reasons why, because I would find that so fascinating. Because I've never met anyone who said that, the theatrical or the lesser version is, in terms of duration, is better because the director's cut is not great. And it's like,
we're talking to you, Mr. Anderson.
Or yeah, well, I mean, I think Julian just doesn't like Snyder, so that's fair. Oh, whoops, name dropped. But yeah, I would honestly love to hear your guys' thoughts about what it is. Only good thing about the PG-13 cut is no sex scenes and hentai. Yeah, it's one. I won't lie. The squid thing is weird to me. It just shows
the insaneness of Atticus Noble.
Yeah, to me, it just kind of he's not human. He's the fact that he loves suffocation. It almost explains why he loves torture so much. Is that his rage, his bloodlust, is almost kind of a turn on for him. And that kind of makes sense from a character standpoint. Like, whether you liked that or not, or if it needed to be said, I can understand. But I personally, I mean, Sofia Boutella she's gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie, but I thought weirdly, because I'm one of those same people that's like, is it necessary for this sex scene, or are we just trying to be sexy? And I don't like that excuse. I don't like, if your reason of putting it in is just to be like, ooh, sex, then I would be like, get out. You know, we don't need that shit. To me, the sex scenes, especially with Kora, were very much utilized to tell where her character was at that point in time in her mindset, from being dead inside and just trying to feel something, which was just pleasure, to healing and being in love and caring about someone. You know, I felt like that alone said a lot about her, and was impressive from that character growth. Could they have showed that in another way? Sure. You know, it could have. But I think it was a interesting way of telling it this case. But yeah, it's a fair point, Koj. I agree. Which, guys, subscribe to our boy Koj. He's doing some cool stuff over on his channel. We're gonna be doing a watch party soon with him next weekend, actually. So I'm very excited. And actually, it's funny, Koj, because I'm seeing that movie pop up everywhere right now. So make sure you guys check out his channel and hit that notification bell. So guys, Corey, is there anything you want to talk about before we end tonight's show?
Nope, I think we covered it, buddy.
I love it.
Watch the director's cut. # make Rebel Moon 3.
Yes. Get that trending, man. If you really did like that movie, like Corey said, talk to your friends, tell them to check it out. That don't listen to make a decision for yourself. I would always say that to anyone, even if I'm like praising a movie, or if I don't talk something nice, like even Batman Cape Crusader. I did not like that show, but you don't hear me, being like, yeah, if you watch it and you're an idiot, you don't know what good Batman stories are. I didn't like it, but if you want to check it out and make your own decision, do it. That's important. That's the fun part of this dialogue, that we get to have this conversation. If you didn't like Rebel Moon, I would love to hear your reasons why, and maybe it'll help me appreciate more of what I like about it, or maybe you brought up something that just didn't even faze me. That's something to consider. I don't know. Could be interesting. But I just want to tell everyone in the chat, thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and hanging out with us, talking about this really cool new IP that I hope Netflix does some really, really cool stuff in the future, because I think there's more story to tell here, and I want more. I'm definitely invested in Rebel Moon. So for a tribute tonight, it is the first scene of Thumbs Up, and I'm just kidding. That's not wrong. Oh dear. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you. As always, it helps us out so much when you smash a like, you share it, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode, because we got all these cool freaking shows coming up, like Alien Romulus reactions and review eventually with the Wonder Wife and I. Skeleton Crew, Corey and I are going to be doing a trailer reaction for that very soon here, as I think that was just released the other day. And of course, Wonder Wife and I are returning for Jurassic World Chaos Theory Season 2 with another teaser trailer reaction. So I'm excited. All the cool stuff that's coming up on the Bat Channel and in entertainment. So you already know. I am your host, Trey, with Super Bro Corey, the Imperium sympathizer and noble squid lover. I am your host. Wait, did I already say that? See, I got so caught up saying your squid thing that I was just like, I gotta start this over.
All right, well, let's try it again.
No, we'll just leave it there.
Now we're gonna just full screen.
Oh boy. I'm
seeing the thumbs up again. Thrusting the thumbs up.
Thumbs up, and hit that like and share and subscribe. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Trey, with Super Bro Corey. Don't forget to tune in weekly.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel. See you later, guys.
Thrusting a thumb up channel. I
guess.
Have a good one, everybody.